possible suspect in the 1984 murders of the Bennett family in Aurora.
On an icy Monday morning,
they were killed with a hammer.
A shocking phone call turned the Bennett family's world upside down.
It was one of several hammer attacks,
triggering a series of events no one saw coming.
The victim we spoke to today said all this brings back
what began as a joyful birthday party for an 8-year-old girl would soon lead to an unimaginable tragedy. But there's more. One crucial DNA clue held the answer to solving Denver's most horrific crime. Stay with us, because this case will make you question everything. You won't want to miss how investigators finally caught the killer. That cold Monday morning, Connie Bennett's phone rang with news that would forever change her life. Her brother called with a troubling update. Her son, Bruce, and his wife, Deborah, hadn't arrived at work. They were employed by Bruce's uncle, helping distribute Bassett furniture. Repeated calls to them went unanswered, and Connie's heart filled with dread. Just the night before, she had celebrated her granddaughter Melissa's 8th birthday. Laughter filled the house, and everything seemed perfect. But now, something felt terribly wrong. Rushing to their home, Connie braced for the worst. What she discovered was beyond her worst nightmares. Bruce lay lifeless on the floor, his throat slashed, and his head battered with a hammer. Debbie and Melissa had also been brutally murdered. But amid the horror, there was a glimmer of hope. Vanessa, their 3-year-old daughter, was still alive, barely holding on. As Connie stood there, her world shattered, struggling to comprehend the nightmare unfolding before her. The night before tragedy struck, the Bennett family gathered to celebrate Melissa's 8th birthday. Laughter filled the house as the children played, and the adults enjoyed their time together. Deborah had put in extra effort to make the evening special. Connie, along with her 2 sons, Richard and Daniel, attended the celebration. The night wrapped up around 9:00 p.m., and Connie left, knowing she had an early trip the next morning. Before leaving, Richard asked her to remind Bruce to close the garage door, which had been left open. Connie passed along the message, but something about Bruce's response felt strange. She had no idea it would be the last time she ever spoke to her son. By the next morning, everything had changed. What began as a joyful family gathering had turned into an unimaginable nightmare. As Connie arrived at her son's house, her heart pounded with fear. She was led from the garage into the kitchen, her mind racing with dreadful thoughts. But nothing could have prepared her for what she was about to witness. There on the floor lay Bruce's lifeless body, his head smashed with a hammer and his throat slashed. The horror was overwhelming, and the shock hit her instantly. Stepping into the master bedroom, another terrible sight awaited. Deborah's body lay on the bed, beaten to death. But the nightmare didn't end there. In the children's bedroom, Connie found Melissa, just 7 years old, also brutally attacked and assaulted. The scene was beyond comprehension, a horror that would haunt her forever. Amid the devastation, there was one small sign of hope. Vanessa, the youngest daughter, was still alive. She was rushed to the hospital, barely clinging to life. As the investigation progressed, detectives combed through the crime scene, searching for any detail that could explain what had happened. The scene was haunting, and every clue seemed significant. One detail stood out. The garage door was left open, despite Connie's reminder to Bruce the night before. It appeared to be an easy entry point for an intruder. The murder weapon, a hammer, was never found, but another crucial piece of evidence was discovered. A knife left in the snow near the driveway. This knife had been used to injure Bruce, but unfortunately, no useful fingerprints could be collected from it. In Melissa and Vanessa's bedroom, investigators found another unsettling clue: biological traces on the carpet beneath Melissa's body and on the blanket covering her. At the time, DNA technology was not advanced enough to identify the person responsible. However, these pieces of evidence would become crucial in the future, even though detectives didn't yet know how. For years, the case remained unsolved, but hope never faded. In 1984, the Colorado Bureau of Investigation, CBI, made a major breakthrough. Improvements in forensic science now allowed experts to extract DNA profiles from old evidence. When investigators re-examined the biological traces from the crime scene, they discovered they could finally test it for a match. The DNA analysis narrowed the suspect pool to just one person out of 18 million. This finding reignited the case, giving detectives new determination. For the first time, they believed they were close to solving the mystery. But one big question remained. Could this new forensic technology finally reveal the person behind the Bennett family tragedy? As DNA technology progressed, investigators turned to genetic genealogy for answers. They sought help from Dr. Colleen Fitzpatrick, an expert who used public DNA databases like 23andMe and Ancestry.com to trace family connections. Detectives provided Dr. Fitzpatrick with the killer's DNA profile, hoping she could uncover a match. Within days, Dr. Fitzpatrick delivered a stunning discovery. She had identified a possible lead, a last name that had never been considered before: Ewing. This name had not appeared in previous reports or investigations. It was a major breakthrough, but the work was far from over. With this new lead, detectives shifted their focus to the Ewing family, believing they were finally on the right track. The search for the truth had taken an unexpected and promising turn. The case took a dramatic shift when Alex Ewing, a man with a violent history, emerged as the prime suspect. Just 12 days after the Bennett family murders, Ewing had made headlines in Kingman, Arizona, for attacking a man with a rock and nearly killing 2 others with an axe handle. His history of violence was well documented, but it wasn't until years later that investigators linked him to the brutal Denver killings. In 2018, authorities discovered that Ewing had been incarcerated since 1984, and DNA evidence directly connected him to the Bennett family murders. As detectives dug deeper into his past, they uncovered a disturbing pattern of violence. His name was now permanently tied to the horrific crimes that had devastated the Bennett family, and justice seemed closer than ever. After decades of investigation, Alex Ewing was formally charged in 2019 with the first-degree murder of Bruce, Deborah, and Melissa Bennett. The evidence against him was overwhelming, and the case went to trial. In a tense courtroom, prosecutors detailed Ewing's brutal acts, describing his crimes as fueled by an insatiable thirst for violence. When the jury reached their verdict, there was no doubt. Ewing was found guilty on all 3 counts of first-degree murder. The judge called the crimes an abomination and sentenced him to 3 consecutive life sentences without the possibility of parole. Though Ewing still faced trial for another murder, his conviction brought a sense of closure to the Bennett family and the community. Justice had finally been served, but the pain of the tragedy would never fully fade. And just like that, the case was cracked. But this is only the beginning. You won't want to miss our next video: how a small clue led to the arrest of a notorious fugitive, where we uncover a mind-blowing twist you won't see coming. Trust me, this story will have you on the edge of your seat. If you haven't already, hit that subscribe button, because we bring you the stories everyone's talking about, and you definitely don't want to be the one left out. Join us for more unbelievable true crime stories. Subscribe now and never miss out.